Good evening. It is Friday, February 19th, 2021. In Mark chapter 8, verses 27 to 38, and I'll be reading from the New Living Translation, second edition, Jesus had an interesting discussion with his disciples. And from that moment on, it changed the course of Jesus' preaching. Jesus and his disciples left Galilee and went up to the villages near Caesarea Philippi. As they're walking along, he asked them, "Who do people say that I am?" "Well," they replied, "some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others say you're one of the prophets." Then he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter replied, "You're the Messiah." But Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. Then Jesus began to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things and be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of religious law. He would be killed, but 3 days later he would rise from the dead. As he talked about this openly with his disciples, Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Jesus turned around and looked at his disciples, then reprimanded Peter. "Get away from me, Satan," he said. "You're seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's." Then calling the crowd to join his disciples, he said, "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you'll lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of the good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world, but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in these adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." That's a good question. Who do people say that I am? When you're a somewhat polarizing figure, there's a lot of possible answers to this question. Some people had even accused Jesus of being in league with the devil. They shared three possible staying on the safe side kind of speculations. John the Baptist, Elijah, or one of the prophets. Those are all safe answers. We're good with the safe answers. A pastor once got frustrated. He's talking to some children at church, and he's describing an animal for the children, wanting them to guess which animal. He described a small furry creature with a big tail, and they just looked at him. He said it ran up and down the trees, and they just looked at him. Ate nuts, and they just looked at him, and none of the children would answer what kind of animal it was. As he began to get more frustrated with their lack of response, the pastor finally asked, "Why won't you respond?" When one kid says, "Well, Pastor, it sure sounds like you're describing a squirrel, but this is church, and here at church the answer is always Jesus." We're good with the safe answers. We don't want to risk the embarrassment of being wrong or unpopular. But Jesus makes it personal. "But who do you say that I am?" That's the question of the ages. What do I personally say about Jesus? There's no room for just giving the safe answer. I either let it all hang out there that he is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and thus is deserving of all of my allegiance and service, or I try and weasel out with something supposedly safe. Here Jesus changed his teaching to talk about his impending death on the cross. He'd never mentioned it before. Peter took some issue with this, and Jesus called Peter down in some pretty harsh tones. You cannot tell Jesus he's the supreme master of the universe with one sentence, and then try and tell him how to run that universe in the next one. He then explains that following him is to be a yielding surrender of our will to his, that we may be obedient to his leadership. We are to be followers. Please, follow Jesus. God bless you.